Okay, let's unpack this. We've really reached a crucial inflection point where AI agents, software designed to execute tasks, make decisions, and even purchase goods on our behalf, they're no longer some abstract, far-off future tech.
Not at all. They are actively here right now, and
Mhm.
they're changing how money is spent, how commerce flows, and maybe most importantly, they're deciding who gets to own the customer relationship.
Exactly. And the core confusion, I think, for executives, investors, even us as consumers, isn't really about if these agents will take over. It's about how the biggest tech players plan to monetize this seismic shift.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to cut through that complexity and give you a high-speed shortcut to understanding the real strategy behind the headlines.
We're going deep into the strategic decisions being made by giants like Google and OpenAI. This isn't just a summary of features. We're analyzing the underlying philosophy behind their business models.
And we're drawing heavily on the analysis laid out by Mookie Tenenbaum. He does a brilliant job of framing this. Understanding their contrasting approaches is just critical because those models determine everything. The cost of your next purchase, the visibility of your favorite brand.
And the direction the entire market is heading.
Mookie Tenenbaum's analysis shows us this immediate core tension. You have two fundamentally different approaches to customer interaction and commerce. It's fascinating.
So on one hand, you have Google. They're adopting a strategy that, it seems, aims to preserve its past revenue engine.
Exactly. And on the other, OpenAI is adopting a strategy that's designed to completely disrupt and, well, internalize the entire commercial transaction.
And these differences are crucial because they tell us whether we're heading toward a more open, competitive marketplace or...
They're a deeply integrated, highly controlled ecosystem, a walled garden.
Let's start by setting up that core conflict right in the B2C space, business to consumer.
The retail battlefield.
So we jump straight in. The core question here is, how are Google and OpenAI structuring their agent models for the average shopper? And how specifically do they plan to make money off of you without, alienating you in the process?
And the strategies they're deploying are truly polar opposites. It really reflects their respective histories. Google, a company built on search and advertising, has adopted what we can call the shopping mall model.
The shopping mall model. Okay, let's unpack that deeply. How does that metaphor translate into the actual agent experience when I'm shopping?
Well, think of Google or its agent, Gemini, as the massive landlord. They're the entity that draws all the foot traffic into the area.
Okay.
So when you use the Google agent, it processes your specific detailed requests. Let's stick with the classic example. You ask for a medium quality blue shirt in size large, available before Friday.
A very specific search.
Get a very specific agent-ready search. The agent is designed to go out, search the web, and then present you with optimized options from, say, 3 or 4 distinct third-party businesses.
And here's the key part, right? What happens when I click?
This is a key differentiator. The moment you click one of those options, you are immediately directed to the external site, be it Brook Brothers, Walmart, or another retailer. You complete the purchase there.
You interact with the brand, you handle the checkout on their turf.
Exactly. Google is just facilitating the introduction, much like a physical mall landlord just leases the space. They get you in the digital door, but the actual transaction happens elsewhere.
Okay, so here is where Tenenbaum's financial observation gets really interesting. Google does not charge a commission on the final sale. Why would they forego such an obvious revenue stream?
This is the genius of their preservation strategy, and it's highly atypical for modern e-commerce.
Right. If I build a website that referred a customer, I'd want to cut.
Of course you would. You'd demand an affiliate commission. Tenenbaum highlights this by contrasting it with the typical model. He uses the example of the Red Cross Foundation. If you visit their site and they refer you to buy a table, the foundation gets a percentage.
But Google doesn't.
Google deliberately skips this lucrative commission-based model.
But why? If the only true mission of a public company is to make money, why would they bypass this clear revenue stream?
Because their entire strategic architecture is designed to protect and preserve their primary financial engine, the advertising pillar.
Okay. It all comes back to ads.
Always. Google's historical revenue, we're talking tens of billions of dollars annually, comes from those who want high placement in search results. Their agents are built to prioritize companies that have special, expensive arrangements or, critically, those that spend the most on Google advertising.
So by keeping the transaction referral-based and foregoing the commission, They reinforce the value of the ad dollars.
Precisely. If Google started charging a commission on the sale, brands would immediately start questioning why they needed to pay for the ads in the first place. It would cannibalize their main business.
So the product they're really selling isn't the item you buy. It's the priority placement. It's the top slot on the agent's recommendation list. That is a subtle but incredibly powerful difference.
It is. It keeps their legacy business model intact. They monetize the attention, not the transaction.
But they still want a piece of the pie.
Oh, of course.
Huh.
While they sacrifice the sales commission, they capture payment volume through Google Pay. By making sure their financial infrastructure remains central, the place where you keep your card on file, they compete directly with services like Apple Pay or Mercado Pay.
So even if the sale happens on Walmart's site, the financial rails belong to Google.
You got it.
Now, let's sharply contrast this with OpenAI. ChatGPT has taken a dramatically different path, which Tenenbaum clearly labels the walled garden model.
That's the vertical integration approach, and it's far more aggressive. I mean, OpenAI's whole goal is for the customer to complete the entire transaction inside their platform.
So within the ChatGPT interface itself.
Exactly. They'll work with partners. Shopify is a key example here. But the transaction is kept entirely internal to the OpenAI ecosystem. For the user, it means maximum friction reduction.
This sounds seamless for the customer, but what is the strategic cost for the partners, the companies who actually supply the goods?
This is where it gets dangerous for them. It creates what Mookie Tenenbaum calls a catastrophic client relationship drain.
A drain.
Yes, because this model is highly detrimental to any partner, whether it's a massive platform like Shopify or a small retailer. The retailer loses that direct, recurring relationship with the customer.
How so?
Once the transaction is done within the OpenAI walled garden, OpenAI basically abstracts the customer's identity away from the supplier. Tenenbaum observes that for a returning customer, at least half of that customer's value lies in the relationship and the data you collect.
The purchase history, the preferences, all of it.
All of it. Shopify or any retailer using it loses that core value instantly.
So the retailer gets the immediate sale, which is good, but they don't get the valuable, repeatable customer data. It's a guaranteed short-term gain for a massive, long-term strategic loss of independence.
Precisely. OpenAI's model is incredibly consumer-centric in terms of convenience. It keeps you in the system, it's seamless, but it's utterly brutal for the brands and retailers fighting for loyalty.
And as we look at this battle, Google preserving the ad model versus OpenAI destroying the brand relationship, Mookie Tenenbaum has a clear vision for where this is all inevitably heading.
Yes, regardless of which of these two current models wins, he sees the agnostic auction model as the endpoint.
The agnostic auction model.
This is what Tenenbaum describes as the inevitable natural state of agent commerce, and it's driven by just brutal efficiency. Eventually, the agent will become completely agnostic.
Meaning it truly will not care which specific company gets the order?
It won't care at all. It will be solely dedicated to serving the user's explicit needs at the lowest possible cost with the highest available quality rating.
Okay, but if the agent doesn't care about the company, how does it choose? How will that mechanism work?
The agent will effectively auction the user's request, that specific blue shirt you asked for, among all potential sellers, instantly.
A machine speed bidding war.
Exactly. The only priority becomes efficiency, cost, and rapid delivery. And the outcome of this system is brutal. The user gets the goods at the lowest possible price, delivered by the most efficient system.
And the sellers.
Crucially, sellers lose all residual control over the customer relationship, further stripping away the value of any individual brand promotion or advertising spend.
This is catastrophic for manufacturers. If the agent simply prioritizes the cheapest reliable seller, then brands have to abandon all margin. They just become fulfillment houses competing on wholesale costs.
Absolutely. The winner in the agnostic auction model is the consumer, who gets maximum efficiency, and of course the agent, which controls the entire flow of commerce. The loser is the manufacturer, who is reduced to a commodity supplier.
A race to the bottom for price.
But a race to the top for the agent itself.
And that agnostic auction model brings us directly into the next major tension that Mookie Tenenbaum observed, the ongoing war on brands.
Yes, because the two dominant agent models we just detailed have a profoundly different, conflicting relationship with the importance of traditional branding.
Let's start by reinforcing the Google position. Why does the Google model naturally defend brand value, even if it's inadvertent?
Because it directs you to the brand site. When the agent acts as a tertiary referral in that shopping mall model, you still end up seeing the familiar logo, engaging with the brand's design language, and completing the transaction on their turf.
You're still on the brand's property, so to speak.
Exactly. You put your credit card in their system, and the brand visibility is maintained. This reinforces the connection between you and the seller, and it protects the massive investments that brand has made in its identity.
Conversely, OpenAI's strategy, keeping the transaction internal and abstracting the customer identity,
Hmm.
it seems almost actively designed to destroy brand value.
It absolutely minimizes the customer's exposure to branding efforts. As Tenenbaum points out, the more we rely on agents, the less we're exposed to the general advertising that builds brand recognition.
We're already spending less time watching TV, reading magazines, browsing ad-heavy sites.
Right. The goal is to use the AI more and the traditional interfaces less. And when you stop seeing that consistent branding effort, Tenenbaum has a great line. He describes it as branding a cow with fire. That brand value starts to accelerate its loss very quickly.
So if companies stop spending on promotion because the agent mediates everything, the value just fades away. The customer only sees a transactional result.
That's it.
This is the death knell for premium brands then. The ones that rely on emotional appeal rather than pure price efficiency. If I ask an agent for those energy-efficient, medium-quality light bulb, and the transaction happens inside its walled garden, why would I ever pay a 30% premium for a specific legacy brand?
You wouldn't. And that is the fundamental mechanism behind what's being called the white label acceleration.
Okay.
Agents are dramatically accelerating the shift toward generic, non-branded products. If the agent is primarily optimizing for metrics price, quality specs, the emotional appeal of a high-cost legacy brand is minimized or, frankly, eliminated.
And are we seeing this effect strongly in traditional retail already, even before agents have fully saturated the system?
Oh, absolutely. The statistics are stark. Look at the data Mookie Tenenbaum presents from Europe. In UK supermarkets, white label products, Tesco Cocoa or Hansbury's paper towels, they already account for a massive 60 to 70% of total sales volume.
60 to 70%.
Yes. Legacy brands like Cadbury are already losing that high-volume, low-margin fight to retailer-owned labels.
And what about the U.S. market? It's historically been slower to adopt store brand loyalty.
It's catching up at an alarming pace. Walmart is the perfect microcosm of this. Their successful white label initiative is projected to grow from an already significant 12% to a massive 25% of their total sales this year alone.
Wow, that is an accelerating trend.
A massively accelerating trend.
Yeah.
And agents will just pour gasoline on that fire. They'll push the generic, non-branded white label choice even further into the foreground because the agent has no brand loyalty. It only has loyalty to your objective needs.
But let's step back. There's a monumental requirement here. Agents are now being empowered to not just recommend, but to buy and pay on our behalf. That requires enormous trust from us.
Huge trust.
So what happens when these new companies, relying entirely on an agent interface, face issues like fraud or payment security breaches or hacking?
And this brings us to the trust paradox. OpenAI's walled garden model might be technologically superior in its flow, but they lack the historical reassurance of the established giants. We're all naturally fearful of handing over our wallets and financial autonomy to a new system.
And our fears are justified.
Completely. The market is rife with sophisticated fraud.
So who steps in to calm those fears? Why is this so critical to the current market battle?
The established brands of Microsoft and Google. Tenenbaum describes these massive brands as a good calmative, or, using the specific term from his analysis, a ribotril against those consumer anxieties.
A ribotril, like a tranquilizer.
Exactly. The metaphor perfectly captures the effect. When Google or Microsoft guarantees the transaction, it provides an instantaneous, powerful reassurance and a clear, well-known point of contact for complaints. That established confidence is absolutely crucial.
Because the agent has now gone from merely suggesting a blue shirt to executing the purchase and payment entirely on your behalf.
And that changes everything. So brand equity shifts. It's less about the emotional loyalty to the shirt brand and more about the fundamental structural trust in the platform brand, Google or Microsoft, that facilitated the payment.
It buys those large tech players a massive strategic advantage in the B2C space.
It does, even if Google's model is slightly less optimized for convenience. It's the difference between optimal flow and optimal security reassurance. And because of this inherent consumer comfort and resistance, Tenenbaum predicts that the full B2C market shift, this transition from business to business to agent, will take more than a year to fully saturate the market.
So it's not an overnight switch.
No, it requires overcoming deeply ingrained user habits.
And yet we're already seeing the effects bleeding into traditional retail. I mean, companies like GAP and Zara are struggling because of this evolving marketplace.
They are, and they're racing to innovate. You see things like Google's virtual fitting room technology or the high-tech mirrors in stores like Zara.
But those are just defensive reactions.
They're defensive reactions to the inevitable. The moment people feel significant friction in the physical shopping process or when they realize they're paying too much, they will switch. Agents promise to remove the cost, the complexity, and the decision fatigue completely.
Okay, so we've established that the B2C shift will be relatively slow, maybe more than a year, due to trust and inertia. Let's pivot to the B2B space, business to business, because this is where Mookie Tenenbaum's analysis suggests the speed of adoption is, well, fundamentally and brutally different.
This is where the efficiency argument is just immediate, brutal, and unassailable. Before we dive into the mechanics of Microsoft's strategy, though, let's quickly review the major agent players Tenenbaum identifies.
Right. We have OpenAI with ChatGPT, Google with Gemini, which Tenenbaum actually considers potentially more strategically important than ChatGPT because of its integration with the Google ecosystem.
And our main focus here, Microsoft with Copilot.
And we can't forget Anthropic with Cloud.
We can't. It's the rapidly growing fourth major player. Its current valuation is reported at a staggering $350 billion. I mean, that's a truly huge figure for a company that's only been around for a couple of years.
What about the others we hear about, like Grok or Meta?
Tenenbaum notes they aren't really active in the agent space, meaning tools designed to independently act and purchase, but when they do enter, he suggests they'll disrupt the markets all over again. But for now, the action is focused on those four platforms.
So let's focus on Microsoft. Microsoft has always been an enterprise company, Office, Word, the whole infrastructure. It makes perfect sense that their agent, Copilot, is overwhelmingly focused on B2B adoption.
And their entry point is strategically genius. They are initially directing Copilot at non-central purchasing.
Nonsense.
Focusing on peripheral expenses, the administrative overhead that every single company, regardless of its industry, has to deal with.
Okay, can you give us a clearer definition of that distinction? Central versus non-central purchasing.
Sure. So if you have a company that makes something physical, say high-pressure pipes, the central purchase is the raw material, the massive quantities of specialized steel or iron.
The core product.
The core product. The non-central purchases are everything else. Paper towels, toner cartridges, office chairs, coffee service subscriptions, packaging tape, maintenance supplies, all the low-value, high-volume administrative purchasing.
And why start there, with the mundane stuff, rather than automating the high-value steel orders right away?
Because central purchases are still fundamentally human-driven. They involve complex vendor relationships, long-term contracts, negotiation.
The dinners, the golf outings.
Exactly. What Mookie Tenenbaum calls the foam that surrounds B2B sales. Those complex relational sales are just too difficult to automate reliably for now.
For now.
For now. Tenenbaum actually predicts that the AI will mature so quickly that Copilot will start moving aggressively into central purchasing by the end of this year. But the initial focus is on the most inefficient, low-hanging fruit.
So what's the immediate, overwhelming financial incentive for a CEO to adopt Copilot for these seemingly small purchases? Why is the temptation so brutal, as Tenenbaum puts it?
It comes down to the bottom line and sheer scale. Non-central expenses typically account for about 20% of a company's total general expenses. That's a massive hidden cost of bureaucracy.
20% is huge.
It is. And by automating this entire process using Copilot, companies can eliminate the need for humans to handle procurement, requisition approvals, logistics tracking, invoice matching, all of it.
So we're talking about massive labor displacement in low-level administrative tasks that are purely procedural.
Absolutely. And the financial savings are enormous and immediately measurable. Mookie Tenenbaum points out that using Copilot agents can result in a quantifiable 23% reduction in those general expenses.
23%.
This isn't theoretical ROI. This is pure surgical cost-cutting on overhead that adds no value to the core product.
Let's put that into context. If a medium-sized enterprise spends $10 million a year on general operating expenses, they can instantly save $2.3 million just by replacing human procurement bureaucracy with an agent system.
Yes.
But wait, what's the hidden cost? Does Tenenbaum talk about the cost of integrating Copilot or the risk of vendor lock-in?
That's a crucial question. The integration cost for Microsoft is often low because the agent is already built into the existing corporate infrastructure Office 365, Teams, Azure.
It leverages systems that are already in place.
Right. The cost is primarily the subscription fee. And the temptation is brutal because the return on investment is nearly immediate and overwhelmingly positive. When a public company can announce such a significant reduction in operating expenses, the stock price often jumps.
Unlike the consumer who needs comfort and habit change, the CFO only needs to see the spreadsheet.
That's it. For B2B, Microsoft provides that necessary brand reassurance, that Rubitril for the CEO worried about fraud or data security.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, if the agent hallucinates and buys 500 reams of specialty paper instead of 50,
You know who to call.
you know you can call Microsoft, and the issue will be fixed. The efficiency gain is simply too large to ignore.
So it sounds like B2B adoption is effectively a plug-and-play decision, which is why Tenenbaum expects it to happen much quicker than B2C.
I agree completely. Fewer emotional barriers, a massive immediate financial incentive, and the security of a huge brand like Microsoft behind it. It's a gold rush opportunity for them.
We've spent a lot of time on Google and Microsoft. Let's return to that other major player we mentioned, Anthropic. Their cloud agent is different yet again, focusing on intense enterprise collaboration or co-working.
Yeah, Cloud's model is incredibly ambitious. It moves beyond simple purchasing or search. This agent is designed to handle entire complex projects from start to finish, meaning writing and testing entire blocks of code, conducting comprehensive market research, producing detailed written reports. It's designed to function as a complete digital colleague who works independently.
That sounds immensely powerful. It could replace large swaths of junior and mid-level knowledge work. But that power introduces a major security hurdle, which Tenenbaum notes is the core challenge for them.
Yes, and this is the high-risk, high-reward element. For Cloud to do this co-working function effectively, it has to be allowed to take control of the user's keyboard.
Whoa.
It requires deep access to sensitive data. Email, calendars, proprietary documents, HR files, internal systems. It needs the keys to the entire corporate digital kingdom.
The implication is massive. If an AI has total keyboard control, it could access HR files, approve unauthorized invoices, initiate wire transfers.
That is the terror factor, and it ties directly back to that Rubitril factor we talked about. So you have an ethically focused agent. Anthropic tries hard to be the good guy, but with a lesser-known brand and a terrifyingly high-risk business model.
So the paradox of cloud is that the product is reportedly excellent, but the presentation, as Mookie Tenenbaum suggests, needs major refinement. The lack of a household brand name, combined with the request for total computer control, is a really difficult commercial sell.
It is, and this high-risk scenario is why there's recurring speculation about its ultimate fate.
We hear persistent rumors that Amazon could eventually buy Anthropic.
That's right. But as we noted, its massive $350 billion valuation makes finding an easy buyer a challenge even for the giants. That said, Microsoft is already investing heavily. They recently put $500 million into Anthropic. They're covering all their bases.
Speaking of large players, this all just reinforces the idea of intense market concentration. Tenenbaum is quite blunt about what happens to agents that are not part of these giant platforms.
He is. He argues that agents that aren't tied to the big companies will likely fail. He cites the high-profile failure of the Salesforce Agent Initiative, which he says collapsed, as key evidence.
Why did it collapse?
The essential difference is strategic. An agent needs to be focused on gain massive cost reduction or revolutionary convenience, not just reducing minor friction. Salesforce's agent offered friction reduction, but it didn't provide that massive cost efficiency of a Copilot or the ecosystem control of Google.
So if you're a small tech firm building a proprietary agent for a niche market, the chances of survival are slim.
Extremely slim. And this goes even for existing giants who try to fight the trend.
Like Amazon.
Amazon, famously, is attempting to build its own proprietary agent while refusing to allow external agents into its marketplace. Mookie Tenenbaum believes this highly defensive model will ultimately fail because it limits the scale and efficiency that only open integration can achieve.
So the power is just concentrating further.
Rapidly. Into the hands of just a few massive platforms that control the search interface, the enterprise OS, or the foundational computing layer. The concept of the shop window is rapidly disappearing, and only a few will control the new format.
Okay, let's shift our analysis to the financial endgame. Regardless of which agent wins the war, the money has to be made somewhere. Tenenbaum's analysis of Google's revenue future seems designed to calm investors.
It is. Their agent strategy is explicitly designed to preserve their core business model. That's absolutely right.
How so?
Despite all the disruption, Google will maintain and even increase revenue by selling more ad slots. Even though agents mediate the search, they will still display advertisements from the businesses that bid the highest. Google's model is built specifically to save its advertising business.
Even if that's philosophically less focused on pure consumer optimization.
Exactly. For Google, the goal is survival and preservation of their existing wealth creation engine.
This high-stakes environment requires companies to make massive, unsustainable investments now for a future payoff. This brings us to a really compelling metaphor Tenenbaum uses. The tennis metaphor or the tunnel?
It's a powerful metaphor. It illustrates the concept of necessary capital expenditure without immediate returns. He draws a parallel with a professional tennis player.
Right.
An aspiring player has to invest colossal sums for elite coaches, international travel, equipment, just to reach the level where they can start making a profit. There's a long, dark tunnel of investment where they are consistently losing money.
Until and unless they emerge on the other side as a champion.
Right. And in the AI world, that tunnel is defined by the sheer capital drain of the infrastructure. Billions on custom silicon, massive data centers, and, most crucially, the insane salaries required to attract and retain top AI talent.
So companies are entering this financial tunnel, hoping to be one of the few winners who emerge.
But as Tenenbaum points out, many will fail to emerge. They'll run out of money or make a bad strategic decision. The tunnel is financially treacherous.
What happens when there are too many companies in that tunnel all trying to get out at the same time?
That leads directly to the Porta 12 scenario, the idea of excessive competition where everyone is just pushing and shoving. Companies engage in vicious price wars, offering services for free even.
Hoping to either become a winner or
be acquired by a larger, stronger player.
That brings up acquisition motives. And Tenenbaum names 3 key reasons a company is acquired today.
The first is traditional. Good technology. You buy a company because its product is superior.
Simple enough.
Second, and this is increasingly common, is for nuisance value. A smaller player is causing enough strategic trouble or pricing disruption that a big player buys them just to eliminate the competition, to take them off the playing field.
Can you give a quick example of that?
Sure. Imagine a small agent company creates a hyper-efficient pricing bot that forces Amazon to constantly drop its prices, eroding margins. It's not an existential threat, but it's causing constant financial pain. It's easier and cheaper to buy that company for $100 million than to keep losing $50 million a month fighting it.
And the third reason.
But Mookie Tenenbaum stresses that today, the most common acquisition reason is for the talent. It's often cheaper and faster to buy a company outright to acquire its highly skilled workforce than it is to try and recruit those same people individually.
So given all this chaos and risk, let's explore Tenenbaum's investment philosophy for stability. For our listeners who want to participate but are cautious, what does he suggest?
Well, the primary goal, as Tenenbaum states, is to buy actions that let you sleep well at night. And you have 2 clear paths.
Okay.
Path 1 is betting on the big players. High probability of success, but potentially lower, slower returns because they're already huge. Path 2 is betting on smaller, speculative companies for a high-risk, high-reward, all-or-nothing return, basically buying them for their acquisition value.
So if you want peace of mind, where should your money go? Tenenbaum names 3 central assets, the 3 pillars for stability, that provide the highest chance of low-risk stability.
First, Google. Google continually demonstrates the capacity to excel. Tenenbaum highlights an astonishing example of their new agent, Gemini.
What was that?
Imagine this. The agent, with access to your Google data, could go into your email, find an old photo of your car's license plate, and use that single image to identify the exact tire specifications needed for a service quote.
That integration is terrifyingly efficient.
It is. It makes them incredibly sticky. Second pillar, TSMC Taiwan Semiconductor. They own the hardware, the physical chips, the silicon, necessary for the entire AI ecosystem to function.
Without them, the whole system grinds to a halt.
Exactly. They're insulated from the strategic chaos of the agent war itself.
And the third pillar.
Microsoft. They have the massive enterprise experience, huge client relationships, and deep ties to both OpenAI and Anthropic. Microsoft is positioned perfectly to win, regardless of whether success comes from Copilot or one of its partners.
And for listeners looking for foundational stability outside the U.S.,
Muki Tenenbaum mentions Shinetsu, a Japanese chemical company. They hold monopolies on specific, highly specialized chemicals required for AI production, particularly in semiconductor manufacturing.
so a less obvious but equally crucial piece of the infrastructure.
Precisely. These are the companies that allow you to sleep well at night, even if they aren't the ones that promise the flashiest returns.
So, if there is one overarching theme to take away from Muki Tenenbaum's entire analysis, what is it?
It is this. Almost everyone, executives, investors, policymakers, is dramatically misjudging the sheer pace of acceleration of this shift.
We've seen the proof throughout this deep dive. B2B agents offering 23% cost cuts, OpenAI redesigning brand value, Google scrambling to save its ad business. This isn't a slow evolution.
No, it's a sudden, aggressive, machine-driven revolution. Every single market is being disrupted. Tenenbaum suggests that AI will soon be the only industry that matters, as it becomes the foundational layer for all others.
And those who fall behind.
Those companies and individuals who fall behind in adapting will pay a very heavy price. This isn't just about efficiency, it's a battle for core business existence.
This acceleration crisis is becoming impossible to ignore, even at high levels of government. We see London Mayor Sadiq Khan taking the proactive step of setting up a system to discuss how to deal with the inevitable job displacement.
And while Tenenbaum observes that the proposed solutions, like trying to generate entirely new job sectors overnight for millions of displaced workers, might be described as illusory or idealistic.
The act of confronting the acceleration crisis head-on is the crucial first step.
It is.
That leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. Consider your own professional field or your most frequent spending habits. How quickly do you think that B2B or B2C shift will occur in your specific domain? And when that moment comes, how will your employer or your favorite retailer navigate it?
And of the two fundamentally competing models, Google's open referral mall versus OpenAI's walled garden, which one do you believe will ultimately win the consumer's deep-seated trust and dominate the trillion-dollar market of agent commerce?
The battle lines are drawn. The decision is now in the hands of the agents and the companies that control them.